Let's do this.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Mike 7 here. I'm back with another video. I'm here with my boy J King. Here, and we got some breaking news. You've been living under a rock lately. You know, we're J King. We're in very changing times. I
Yeah,
think
we are. We definitely are. But first, to the people, this is recorded on National Coming Out Day. So to those who celebrated that, happy National Coming Out Day. And speaking of the topic of that, we have a character, a very iconic character in the world of DC, though the newest version of him exactly, coming out. And that is the fact that Jonathan Kent, the son of Clark Kent Superman, and the brand new Superman for the DC universe as of this year, has just come out. Well, not yet, but will in the recent 5th issue of Son of Kal-El as bisexual.
Yay! Yes, and people are going, as words of Beyonce, people are going ape shit. The reason, and I just want to preface by saying this here, like I I am not here showing any my intentions of like my feelings about this or anything like that. It's just more of I'm getting sick and tired of us kind of overreacting with this story. But let's go dive in because it's also not a big deal. Because this is also not the first time recently, like literally in a month or two. This happened when another character came out as bisexual, a pre-existing character we all know and love. But yeah, we're getting to that. But yes, let's go into the article right here. Let's go in. It's reported by Deadline. So Superman will come out as bisexual in the upcoming DC comic. Superman will be waving the pride flag high. Come on, man. I'm sorry. Superman will be waving. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm sorry. It's just Deadline. Disagree. Superman will be waving the pride flag high come November 9th when it will be revealed that the superhero is bisexual in DC Comics' upcoming issue, Superman, Son of Kal. The current Superman is Jon Kent, son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane. In the panel release in front from the comics, readers get to meet young Kent's love interest, Jay Nakamura. Nakamura. I think that's the Asian. Probably I don't know.
We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah. Our reporter Natch issue number 5 will show John and Jay's blossoming friendship, which turns romantic after reporter take care of the Man of Steel, who is feeling mentally and physically burnt out from trying to keep everyone safe. And here's his comments here. It says, I've always said everyone needs a hero and everyone deserves to see themselves in their heroes. I agree. I am very grateful DC and Warner Brothers shared this idea. Writer Tom Taylor said in a statement, Superman's symbol has always stood for hope, for truth, and for justice. Today, the symbol represents something more. Today, more people can see themselves in this most powerful superhero in the comics. As it goes more to say, today, not coincidentally, as you mentioned, is National Coming Out Day. Congratulations to all the people there. Shout out to y'all. Added artist John Timms, I'm incredibly honored to be working besides Tom and on Superman Son of Kal series, showing Jon Kent tackling his complex modern life while also saving the world from the greatest threats, villains, and menaces. And the issue will dive into Superman's stress and frustration as it builds up to the moment when he needs a hero himself. We cannot be prouder to tell the important story from Tom Taylor and John Timms, said Jim Lee, DC Chief Creative Officer and Publisher, very popular in the DC Comics world. If you're not familiar with Jim Lee, we talk a lot about the power of the DC multiverse in our storytelling, and this is another incredible example we can have. Jon Kent exploring his identity in the comics, as well as Jon Kent learning the secrets of his family on TV. On Superman Lois, recommend that show heavily. And they coexist in their own worlds and times, and our fans get to enjoy both simultaneously. It's also been recently teased in that Robin is questioning his own sexuality, which we'll also get into. A topic that will be further explored in the December issue of Urban Legends. So So yeah, here are my thoughts about this. Like I said, mentioned before, um, that I personally, I see people here kind of complaining about this. As mentioned, also a few months ago, recently, one of the Robins, the third Robin, Tim Drake, also came out as bisexual, and people came up in arms about it. Um, and for me, I did kind of go into the whole thing about, like I said, I keep going to Stan Lee, rest his soul. One of the things that he mentioned about saying that, the Marvel universe represents the world outside your window, and I also believe that the DC universe as well, right? So
Mhm.
I think that, and I know Jay King doesn't disagree on that either. So yeah, and I believe that in terms of exploring this side of obviously Superman's son, brings more into medium. Now, this also goes to some certain people might be complaining about as they try to put more representation in comics. For example, instead of you changing a pre-existing character and changing a trait, quality, or race, ethnicity, whatever, why just create an original new character who is bisexual, which they are actually doing, but they get um, you know, no popularity or anything like that. But I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword, just in terms of people be very excited about this, but also people can be very triggered about this. But yeah, Jay King, what do you think about this?
Well, when I saw this news breakout earlier, I wasn't surprised. I say I was more or less like, oh God, how is the internet going to react? And believe me, because the internet has been having a lot to say about the character of Jon Kent, and I'm just going to briefly say that because again, Jon Kent has been a beloved character for many for the DC comics ever since Lois and Clark finally had their kid, and we got little baby Soups into the world. Everyone adored this character. And as he was growing up, and when he finally became Superboy, everyone was happy with it. When he started teaming up with Damian Wayne and they became the Super Sons, everyone loved that
Which
favorite
I
run,
really
by the
like
way.
that issue, by the
Yeah,
way.
that run
Yeah,
was fantastic.
when they would get
Um,
kids and stuff. Yeah, now
mhm.
he's
But
older
then
now. But yeah,
yeah, and that's because of the fact that when Brian Michael Bendis had left Marvel, he went over to DC, he started writing Superman, and one of the things he did as he wrote Superman, along with having Clark reveal his identity to the world, and that's still being a mainstay to this day, is also aging John up. And so many people have been so pissed about that. They've been wanting them to change him back to a kid for a long time, for like the last 2 or 3 years since it
years.
happened.
Yep.
And it's just like, you can't change it. Like that's basically asking them to pull things back to the status quo. And like a lot of people always like that's the thing is that people are always like, oh, in comics, there's no, resolution. Everything will just go back to how it used to be. But it's like, no, things change. Things do change in the world of DC and Marvel. And when it comes to Jon Kent coming out as bisexual, I'm like, okay, because in the past he hadn't really defined his sexuality at all. Because
Reality.
again, before really becoming Superman as he is now, and we'll talk about why in a minute, before becoming Superman, he literally was still a child like a couple years ago until the whole age up misfire thing in the Bendis run. He was literally a child. And as a person who read the Superman comics at that time when John was growing up as Superboy and during his team ups with Damian Wayne and all that, I did not see any point where any writer was talking about his sexuality because again he was still but between him and Damien, he was still the youngest. He was still, learning to become a superhero. He was still learning what it meant to be the son of Superman. He didn't have time really to think about his sexuality. And whenever he had a female character, like as a friend, again, it was mainly just a friend. There weren't any inklings of like any romantic interest as far as I can remember in any of those
Right.
in any of those relationships. So again, him now being forced to be older, as well as having to take up the mantle of Superman since Clark is going to be off doing his own things for a while, especially with the fact that this is going to be a mainstay. DC earlier this year, Future State, where it shows that John is going to be Superman in the future. I definitely don't have a problem with this. I think that it's okay because again, it wasn't really defined before in the past. So anyone that says, "Oh, they're changing," no, no, it hadn't been defined before. So this is basically just learning the fact that it's okay for him to like this. Again, I didn't see this coming, and again, we're only at the third issue. This is the fifth issue they're talking about, which won't be coming out until like
Uh,
uh November, December. No,
November.
yeah, November. And again,
November.
like he just like met shit, this shit is bright. He
Hmm.
just met this character. Like I
Hmm.
have the third issue right here. He just met this character that he's going to be dating. Again, he tried to, as I said before, Clark's identity was exposed, so John couldn't have a normal life. Batman set him up with a new identity to try and give him a normal life. that lasted no longer than 5 minutes before a school shooter showed up and he had to blow his cover. And
Right.
he met that character there. Again, this was like very recently. Again, I have no problems with Jon being bisexual as long as it's not the main driving force of the story. I am perfectly fine with like any character sexuality as long as it's not the main driving force or the pinnacle driving force of the comic. I am perfectly okay with it. Let him be bisexual. Let him tell the story. Let Tom Taylor tell the story he wants to. I trust Tom Taylor because again, he's done incredible stuff like Injustice, Deceased. He also along with this is doing the Nightwing run right now, which that run is probably one of my favorites I've seen Dick Grayson in a long time.
Right.
But again, like I trust this writer. I trust what he does. I trust his intuition. I trust his foresight and how he handles his characters. He knows how to get into whatever character he's given. The Injustice series pretty much shows that, as well as many of his other runs. So again, I trust what he is doing. I trust he knows, you know, to tell the story that he wants to without it being the main driving point of this whole thing. So again, anyone that's complaining about it, y'all need to step back and look and recognize we're not in the 90s anymore. We're not in the 80s. We're not in the 70s. The comics have been reflecting our world since their incarnation. Superman himself, the first superhero, was based upon, circus trapeze artists, his costume and everything. It has been reflecting the world outside our window since their beginning, and they will continue to into the future. That's
And
not going to
yeah.
change. They're never going to change that. So saying that this ruins it, that that's mainly from the type of people that think that these worlds are just power fantasies. But literally, these stories wouldn't be these stories without the characters behind the masks or behind the symbols or behind the costumes. And I think Jon Kent exploring sexuality is perfectly fine in my opinion.
Yeah, and I want to make a point here, and I'm actually gonna get the solo on this one because I want the camera to look. I'm gonna look dead to the camera right now. See, if you look at my face, see, I'm tired of this. It's more because I see this argument also used in terms of minority characters, black characters, and everything like that. And
Mhm,
and my thing is this, as you know, is that um, this character been around comics, the Superman mythos, whatever, been around for comics for almost 80 years, or at least over 80 years, right?
mhm,
And this point is in terms of more of the culture, as well as comic book fans, just medium, that slowly that you're seeing, and you're going to be seeing it more, especially in the upcoming film Eternals. You're going to see a lot more of representation in a lot of areas that you're not going to be able that you got to basically prepare yourself for if you're not ready, just realizing that people are going to be acting look different than you, act different than you, and stuff like that. And my thing is, in terms of, I do believe in terms of, yeah, does representation matter, but also what does it serve the story? And that really does not is a very pivotal thing to the story. If anything, I feel like we kind of politicize this just as a culture, in a way that make things actually bigger than they no than they actually are. And I'm to me, I'm just kind of like frustrated because as a fan of these characters and everything, is that I do believe is like when it comes to narrative structures in comics, story, movies, shows, medium, whatever, is that right, say reflecting more of the world, becoming more inclusive. For example, about less than almost 10 years ago, Black Spider-Man never even existed, right? And now, exactly now we're that's for some people, and especially some white kids. It's surprisingly, I ask them like, no, my Spider-Man is not Peter Parker, is Miles. So slowly, you see the narrative changing. Eventually we're gonna get Riri Williams, who's a black woman, who's also plays Ironheart. She's gonna be in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And also when her debut came, along with Miles Morales, ton of backlash. Basically of them as their characters. So I'm using this argument against now in terms of not trying to equivalent, in terms of race and sexuality together, but just in terms of the point of actually changing characters, or at least a legacy character, and actually changing them into more of a modern world perspective of how that character is portrayed. And yeah, to me, I'm just kind of getting sick and tired. I ask people, really, the comic book fandom, to actually grow up. Obviously, you're not going to be a fan of this. That's your opinion, but also just as medium, as film, art, as well as comics, all art is subjective. And
mhm.
this is just, guys, just want to talk about this because also we mentioned about Tim Drake recently. Tim Drake,
Yeah.
yeah, Robin, the third Robin, he also came as bisexual too. People came up for about him, which even though even in comics, he also has relationships with a character, Stephanie Brown, who also one of the
Stephanie
other
Brown
Robins
spoiler.
too. Spoiler.
Mhm.
And listen, it doesn't change any aspect of his character. He just also
Nope.
we recently just got his first live action debut in Titans, and on HBO Max. So it's like his character's now been popular, politicized, at least live action. Um, yeah,
Yep,
right
right
there.
here.
Yeah,
Just
right
one
there.
image. Just one image started a fire.
And just a conversation. There wasn't no, anything. Wasn't even to the extent.
There
Never even to the
wasn't
extent of
there
this.
wasn't a kiss like there is here. There wasn't a kiss. It was just literally, do you want to go out or something like that? That's literally it.
Right.
Literally it.
Yeah, and
And
I do.
again, and talking about this Tim Drake thing real quick, because we talked about this again when this first happened. But as I said before, just because a character has had a relationship with a female back in the past doesn't mean that they can't later on be like, oh, I think I might be bisexual. There are people who have literally got married a woman, had kids, and realized later on that they are into men as well. It's happened.
We
It
have
is the
we have
normal world.
content creators who we look up to and respect, who are bisexual of the community too, and and we give them a ton of respect as well. So and seeing this story and how, like, especially in films and media, is like, they don't really try to play it safe, but now it's trying pushing that barrier of, like, going that, not just with, with sexuality, even with just with, minority characters. Like, think about it. And we're gonna talk about this later in other videos, but this past 2 years, we've got most of Asian representation we've got probably in the last 5 years. And like with
Hmm.
Shang-Chi, and also the most highly rated show, Squid Games. Like, we're getting those popular shows, especially a series that's also not in English, based in English, is based in Korean, and well, I think it was about pre-COVID, when we had the
Yeah.
film The Parasite that won Best Picture on Academy Awards.
Hmm.
That was a monumental thing, and never a foreign film won Best Picture. So you're seeing things narratively, things that are pushing boundaries in terms of culture representation of these of characters, storytelling, whatever it might be. So, and I just want to say that I think, as time is continuously changing, that I feel that they need to be handled the right way, but also in a respectful way. But to me, I don't think this is in the way of what they're showing here. To me, I think a lot of people are kind of overreacting this, and probably is not a big deal coming when they release this in November, I believe, when this issue
Hmm.
comes out. But yeah, but that's got guys all. I just want to keep the video long. But yeah, again, my name is Jedamike7, and this is my boy Jay King. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, comment, like, and share. We'll be back with other videos here in the content in this coming week. We have a lot of stuff coming this week. Till
Oh
next
yeah.
time, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I'm Jedamike, and this is Jay King. Till next time, peace out. Bye bye.